and kind of, oh, sorry, I just got got a notification. Yeah, sort of like kind of getting everything on the table up front in terms of like, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and this is kind of where I want to go. That's it's an interesting take. And then I think Joshua was like, well, that takes a lot of self-esteem. And then I think I kind of like played a bit of devil's advocate at that point, where I was like, well, you know, self-esteem might be something that's challenging for a lot of people. So, you know, like hats off to Jonathan that he can kind of, you know, be super authentic from the beginning. But that also makes me wonder a little bit about, like, I don't know, like, how intense do we want to be from the outset, you know? I think like a lot of the friendships I have, sort of, especially early on, it's sort of like, well, we have this common interest in the things we do together. And kind of a bond develops through that. But it might not necessarily be as extremely intentional as sort of like, you know, like, here's my roadmap and here are all the things, here are all the skeletons in my closet, and here are all the things that I think you should know about me. And I don't know, like, to me, I think I take a bit more of a lighthearted approach. But I mean, definitely, like, if you meet someone and you feel really connected with them and feel like you want to have a really close friendship, those are definitely conversations that I think I could build towards. But for me, it would take a bit more time before I kind of feel enough trust to open up like that. So I think that's kind of where we left off, as far as I can remember. And I'm actually surprised I can remember this much.
I'm impressed.
Because I think it was 4 weeks ago.
It was 4 weeks ago, just about 4 weeks ago. It's been a while, so well done.
Yeah,
Frank. Well done.
So now we just need Roger to throw in his. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But,
no, that's fine. No,
yeah.
I'm more calculated. I'm more calculated. I'm more of a person to take things step by step in friendship in terms of intentionality, because my own personal experience is that while I may say what I mean and mean what I say, a lot of times I'll meet people who don't say what they mean and mean what they say. And that's my own personal struggle. And so because I have that history, I am not so quick to put it all out there. Vulnerability is not something that I'm now uncomfortable with. I've become more comfortable with vulnerability, but I don't want to expend the energy too soon up front, particularly where I find that there are a lot of, in my experience, you know, when you're trying to become social or connected in friendship, there are folks who don't mean what they say. You know, it's easy to put words out of your mouth, but it's not as easy to act those words out or be intentional with those words. So for me, in short, I'm really, I don't want to say calculated, because it seems like I'm too, I hold back. I don't hold back, but I give as much as I get, and I take it one step at a time without throwing it all in, you know, all at once. And so that's my approach, which is more, I think, listening to Frank, mine's more aligned in terms of what Frank's perspective. And it doesn't mean that Jonathan's is bad or anything like that, but mine's less so than what Jonathan described. Yeah.
There was a word that came up in our last podcast recording. That was episode 6, the first part of this conversation. And it came up on almost every single point when I was reviewing the podcast. And that was when Josh was talking about candor with kindness, the word courage came up. Courage, because it takes courage to express candor or forthrightness in a friendship, right? When I was talking about vulnerability, the word courage again came up, because it takes guts to be able to express what's going on internally, right? And so even in this current conversation, I would say with your point there, Frank, about how it's measured sometimes, the progression. I actually wrote down the question here. The question was, how intense from the outset does a friendship need to evolve? And the real answer, I think, that is being evidenced even in this scenario here between Jonathan and myself and Frank and Roger here is there's no right answer. It depends on the person, right? Especially in the frame of makeup. So for some, like for Jonathan and I remember Jonathan was like, okay, you're intense, buddy, but I like the intensity. Let's run with this kind of thing, right? Whereas
let's be friends. I'm pretty sure I asked you out on a man date, didn't
you
I?
totally did. You totally did. Yes.
I want to take you out on a man date.
And it was fantastic because there was that resonance that said there's intention to go deeper, but we want to do this at this speed over here, right? Whereas, for example, with you, Roger, you and I needed some time. Like I needed some time with you for you to say, before I let you in a little further, I need to test you out to make sure. And I know in our mutual group of friends that we spend time with, there's others who have also communicated the same thing, saying, Biniam, I wasn't sure what to think of you at first. You were a little too much, but I had to see the consistency over time before I let you a little bit closer and a little bit closer, right? So there's those expressions, which I don't think is a bad thing per se. It's just the common theme, it seems to be, is there an intentionality that's being expressed to go to the next level and then the next level deeper in the friendship, right? Is there, at whatever speed that looks like, is there that desire to say, okay, this is something meaningful I want to invest in, but I'm going to have my speed that I'm going to, implement in the progression of this. And how do we communicate together about that? You were going to say something there, Jonathan.
Oh, I was just going to say, didn't we talk about intentionality on like episode 1 or 2?
2 or 3 something?
2 or 3 or 4.
But here's the beautiful thing is the intersect.
6 Revenge of the Sith or something like that.
But the beautiful thing is watching how these other themes, they kind of enmesh themselves in expression, right? It's almost like we just can't keep these separate, saying, okay, just leave this one on the side here. It has nothing to do with this component over here. There's really the application of all these themes as we go along, it seems, right?
But I want to put things into boxes.
You want to compartmentalize is another way of saying that. Roger, I have a question for you. And this one is putting you more on the spot. You are the voice professionally, but also personally in our group of friends who has brought more awareness about the interfluidity, I think is a term that you really resonate with in the context of a lot of experiences that you go through and that you premise other people's experiences as well. You've helped me in some of my thinking this way. What does that term look like in the context of considering principles of good friendship as they're evolving in real time?
Well, for me, and I'm speaking for my own identity as a person who,
and also give a layman's definition of interfluidity for our audience as well too. Just a simple.
Yeah, well, I say my words are identity fluidity.
There we go.
Interfluidity, I like it actually, but those aren't my words. But for me, as an individual who self-discloses and embraces the fact that I'm at the core an extremely fluid identity in every aspect of my identity whole, what that has allowed me to do is to take a step back and have a better appreciation for when someone's available or not available for me. Being a fluid person, in terms of personality, some days I'm more introverted or extroverted. Some days I'm more high energy, low energy, different things. And being able to understand that took me a while to be able to understand that about myself. And once I've been able to understand that, there were times when I would be annoyed or dismissive of persons who in friendship who weren't available to me in the way that I wanted. And so that recognition of my whole self as being so wrapped up in ebbs and flows of different things sort of allowed me to have more, is it empathy maybe? Empathy or understanding for someone in terms of reaching out to them, and if I'm not getting a response, to not see that as a way of being dismissed, but just keeping an open mind at all times for whatever comes, and it's more like glass half full perspective. So yeah. So I mean, that's just my speak on it. A lot of us are fixed personalities or fixed identities in different parts of our layers.
Yeah.
I'm a chameleon, and I draw on the people that I'm around quite often in terms of what comes out. Like these animals who change colors and stuff like that. Yeah, in the seasons. So I tend to be that kind of person. Yeah.
So just for those coming in on the app, oh, she can't hear anything. I just realized they probably can't hear anything because it's coming through here. If I were to unplug this guy, let me see if there's another way of facilitating sound on this one here. Testing 1, 2. Talk to me, some of you guys there.
Hello.
Hello. Oh.
Testing.
I see.
Testing.
That's a problem. I'm just coming to an awareness of one of the problems, and that is because I'm wiring everything through my little device here. I should probably think about how to connect the audio from the phones where the live stream is going on to. So,
Nice.
my dear friends who are listening in, this is the Friendology podcast. We are doing our very first ever live stream, but we're working through some of the kinks from bad connections today to also figuring out audio. So I have a little device on here. Let me show you. Let's see if I can pull it over in front here. This is my device that it's all going through, and the phones are not hooked up to that. So that is fantastic. Nonetheless, I'll see if I can break down the conversation for those who are listening on here. We are talking about the principles of friendship, and I would love to hear your questions on the live stream about what you think are important parameters or important characteristics that are necessary in a good friendship. That's what we're talking about. We're good friends here who are talking about various topics like these and discovering them. We have this podcast called the Friendology, where you can find it on Spotify and all the other major podcast carriers. So far, we've covered candor, which is really important by way of forthrightness in relationship, vulnerability we've talked about. We've also talked about the, Roger, just give them a quick wave here so they know who you are. We were just talking there about interest. Say that word again, please.
Yeah. What is that? Oh, Friendology, he's showing that? Oh,
yes,
cool,
he's showing
cool.
Friendology, yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about identity fluidity and how
Identity fluidity.
I embrace that as an individual who ebbs and flows.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, and now I will keep you guys in the live stream abreast of what they're sharing as you're watching them miming. We'll make this work the best we can. But nonetheless, what other characteristics are important for considering in a good friendship?
I was just looking at your little summary that you'd put.
Yes.
And Frank had actually mentioned being open to change and in the relationship.
Oh, that's right. Yes. So we were saying that Frank, give away Frank, he was actually contributing last time that part of a good friendship is being open to the evolution of change in friendships, like with personalities.
Changing dynamics is the word that you had used in the text.
Right up there. Yeah, that was a really good point as well. The changing.
Oh, Frank, that sounds like my identity.
Are you stealing each other's ideas?
It does sound similar to Roger's.
Yeah, or either that or we're a match.
I actually like we've been doing this now, this is our 7th episode or something.
7th episode now. That's
and
correct.
Usually everything Roger says kind of seems like he stole the words out of my mouth.
Frank is just talking about how Roger steals his ideas.
Like it's true. Like you kind of think, well, I'm a guy, so I wake up every morning and I'm the same, but that's nothing could be further from the truth. And sometimes I'm feeling very, very happy and social, and other times I just want nothing more than to spend the evening alone, binging Netflix and having a couple beers or something, right? Some days I'm snappy and I snark at people, and other days I'm really friendly and yeah, moods are always shifting, right? So,
Yeah.
and that definitely impacts, you know, interactions with friends. And sometimes I need more space, and other times I'm really craving that interaction. It doesn't always align with your other friends. Like your other friends might be like, you know, every day's a party and come on over. But today, maybe I don't feel like it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that a good friend would recognize that, and also the other way around, recognizing when your friends kind of, you know, maybe feel differently or have different moods or kind of have drifted in a different direction, and being like, okay, like, hey, like, what can we do to, you know, what can we do to kind of come together and recognize maybe the way that things have shifted, and maybe we can try to figure out, you know, maybe that there's a different way to connect, you know, and that might be more in line with kind of, you know, the way that moods shift, you know. And I think that someone that's willing to do that is, you know, to me, that speaks volumes, you know, of sort of like, hey, like, maybe, you know, you're busy on the days that we normally see each other. Like, what can we do to figure out something else? Or maybe you're always, I don't know, something else going on, and you don't see each other as much, and things drift apart. Yeah, maybe there's something else we can do to figure out how to reconnect. And I think, you know, if I'm the kind of person that can deliver that, or if another friend is willing to be like, hey, you know, I'm going to set aside time so you can access me. That to me is like, that's huge, right? That person is telling me, hey, like, you're important to me, and I'm going to figure out a way to see you.
You're saying something that really resonates for me, Frank, and I hope Biniam, we're not overtaking the topic, but
good. Carry on.
But Frank, it resonates for me because the struggles that I've had in friendship is that on those days when I'm feeling different things, whether more high energy, more introverted, more extroverted, quite often it means identifying a person that fits into that realm to slot into, to hang out with. And it's rare for me as a person who is a composite of all the things that I've said before, where you can find one person who will be comfortable being around me, regardless of where I'm slotting in on that day. And I've had situations where, and even with my own kid, where because I'm a different thing on a different day, someone may say, are you mad at me? What did I do? It's like, has nothing, I'm not, you know what I mean? I have to find someone, a friend, a person who can slot into those changes is not easy. And then when you are ready to be extroverted, another person who you would probably say go to for that may feel rejected because you're only be able to do that sporadically with that individual. So
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
And Austin, I guess to kind of lead on that, like when the awkward silence becomes not awkward,
Yeah.
to me, that's like, okay, that now I'm extremely comfortable.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this person's gonna want to, you know, kind of not feel uncomfortable about being around me, or I'm not uncomfortable around that person, no matter what the situation is. But yeah, that takes, to me, that takes a long time to get to. But it's really nice when it happens. And it's sort of like, you know, now I know that even if I'm boring, you're still going to want to hang out with me. And so, yeah, maybe nothing happens, but nothing exciting happens. We don't have an amazing conversation, but we still enjoy each other's company.
I like that. That was like a really vulnerable expression of the logistics in real time in friendship.
Well, back to the courage piece that you were talking about. I think the one thing that I'm doing different, Frank, and Jonathan, don't get left out because I'm focusing on Frank here. But one thing I'm doing different is taking the courage to communicate this in those calculated step-by-step interactions of friendship, right? To say, listen, I need you to understand that there are days I'm not going to be I need you, to try that, and it actually takes courage to to find the words to say that, because it's courage, because you're interested in a particular friendship, but then you're afraid of a rejection by virtue of saying that. So it takes courage to step out and say it. But it's fundamentally, it's something that you need to do because it's your needs as a person. And I guess it requires a certain level of maturity. And maturity doesn't mean age. Maturity just means ability to think and understand and express who you are in the context of other people you're interacting with. Yeah, so courage is important for that. Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Very much agree. Well,
Do you think the characteristic of loyalty should be included in this echelon of really important principles?
What do you mean by that?
Loyalty expressed in friendship, whereby, like you were just mentioning something there, Frank, where you were saying, hey, it'd be nice to have that transition where the awkward becomes unawkward. That's a funny way to say it. But that also bespeaks some sense of commitment to working through those uncomfortable seasons in a friendship, right? And one of the things that seems to me that really cements the strength component in a friendship is that this individual is going to stick around for the messiness that does season life in general. That's what I mean by loyalty. And especially if you're asking for that individual to give of themselves, saying, I want to get to know more of you. It seems one isn't as open to say, I'm going to share those soft spots internally, only for you to run away after that, because that doesn't feel like a really safe place, right? So that loyalty piece that says, I am trustworthy. I am committed. I do have an intentional desire to go down the long road with you. So let's go ahead and mutually, symbiotically share and contribute to the foundation.
By that definition of loyalty, I agree. Yeah, for sure. Where it's sort of like, even if you're having a tough time or, and sort of like, well, I'm gonna be there with you, even though, you might not be the most fun and exciting person I have the option to hang out with. But you're important to me, so I'm going to try to be there with you. So yeah, from that perspective, for sure. I guess the reason I'm being a little bit cautious here is because I think loyalty, to a point, like, I mean, love is conditional, right? In a sense, like if I had a friend, for example, that was, really great and everything, but then I found out that he was really interested in drunk driving, and he always had 5, 6, 7 drinks and drove home. Then, this is where it's kind of, this courage piece comes up and be like, you need to step in and say, that's not okay. You need to clean up your act, kind of thing, right? And if he's going to continue to behave in that way, then you start to wonder, well, how far does loyalty go, right? So, I mean, but certainly in terms of a friend being willing to kind of like put up with the, sort of like the seasons of your moods and everything, absolutely, I agree with you.
And I suppose for me, loyalty in that category that you describe, where I'm encouraged to go along with something that is against my convictions or my boundaries. Loyalty for me there would look like saying, hey, you asked me into your life. Part of that expression means I'm diametrically opposite to what you're currently expressing or exhibiting right now. And I'm going to follow through on what I think is the best case scenario for you that you might disagree with, but that's my commitment to friendship. For example, if it's someone, if one of you boys came and said, Binim, help me bury your body. There's that example that people say, help me bury your body kind of thing. There's some popular expressions that say, I'm I'm there. I'm going to walk with you down that road. Right. But for me, I'd be like, if you're the one who did this and you want me to keep a secret like this, long-term kind of thing, I'd be like, actually, there's a different expression here that I want to implement by way of loyalty in the friendship, and saying, how can I support you through what you need to go through? Because it's going to be a rough one right now, but I think you need to walk down this pathway here. I'll walk with you to the police station. I'll sit down with you through the interrogation. If I'll come visit you in prison, whatever it looks like. But just saying, from what my values are and our connectedness, loyalty for me means I want to help you down that pathway that I think is necessary. And if you're not interested in that, then we can't quite hang out. But I'm going to need to do what I think I need to do for clarity of conscience in attending to you as a friend. That's an expression there. But
what if it was a pedophile?
Great question.
Sorry.
No, that's like, okay. I love this. Here's the thing.
My first question would be,
mm-hmm.
What happened? Like, who was this person that you decided to, have to bury for whatever reason? And I'd be like,
there's a story behind it.
Yeah, maybe there was. Maybe they were a pedophile. Maybe they were a person that needed to.
Okay, I thought you were asking if this individual, this friend, turned out to be a pedophile. That's
no. I'm talking about the person that they killed.
Oh, that they offed, kind of thing. Got it.
Because if it was a pedophile,
yes,
I would happily help bury the body. It depends on the situation. Depends on the situation. I'm fluid that way.
Now, Roger, how do we started? Listen, I appreciate these extreme versions of examples just because it helps me walk through the pathway that I would walk.
That's a good term, extreme versions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to answer that.
But here's how, again, because in my mind, I have a system that I think along lines, and I like to hold myself to a certain pathway of walking down. Does this hold even for the worst case scenario? So let me take those two, Jonathan. Still, there's an individual that was off there, right? And he deserved it. Many people would say that, right? But here's where I'm coming from. I'm so aware of my messiness from my past. It's not maybe on that level culturally. We have this hierarchy of this is even worse than this, and this is worse than this. I'm still thinking along the lines of, okay, if this is still a pedophile that was off by your friend and they're like, please help me bury the body, I'll be like, let's do the right thing here. I know this is going to be really ingrained. I know you're really frustrated about this example over here of humanity that expresses itself by doing devastating things. Definitely needs to address that. But still, I would say you're asking the wrong person to bury a body. Because there's life here and then that's just a personal thing. And there's difference of opinions. If it turned out even worst case scenario that this friend that I thought was a friend, it turns out to be a pedophile. I think this is where I think of my commitment, loyalty wise, and saying, can I still see something in you that could be redeemable? Can I walk alongside you to say this is wrong? Can I help you along that line? We're going to still do the legitimate due process going through the courts and stuff and law, all that is going to still be in check for me. But still, I would say I want to see this individual at the heart, even though they've done awfulness, right? And say, how can we still walk alongside? How can I walk alongside you to see you in a different place? How can I walk alongside you through your recovery process or whatever that looks like? How can I still hold out hope that this isn't going to define you? That's sort of where my MO still goes. Shoot.
I've got something to say to that.
Go ahead.
Holy crap, you'd have a lot of patience for that, dude. I don't think I would have that kind of patience to continue to walk next to them as they were going through that whole process of all that. I would walk alongside them until, to the next psychologist's office and then be like, cool, have a good life.
So I'm going to just be vulnerable for a quick moment. A brief moment here. And again, that consistency for me comes along because I know what it was like to feel worthless because of my actions once upon a time. So some of the things in my past, I know for some people will write me off indefinitely, right? They'll say, because you cheated on your wife, because you did something so devastating, they'll say something along the lines that is culturally understood, something along the lines of once a cheater, always a cheater, for example. That's just one phrase that people understand readily, right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
I can understand where that's coming from by way of like their visceral, like you're just untouchable now kind of thing. And I want to just respect their space and their decision to do that. But me coming from my side and pursuing a different trajectory, I value that I'm not a write-off personally for myself. I value that I did some awful stuff, but I'm in a different place because I'm reflecting and taking ownership and accountability for where I once was. I don't agree with the premise of once a cheater or always a cheater, because if that's true, then I'm also going to go along and say all the other parameters: once a liar, always a liar; once a glutton, always a glutton; once a thief, always a thief kind of thing; once a pedophile, always a pedophile. And it just seems to lock someone in that zone of irredeemable, like they can't be redeemed anymore, and I'd like to fight for something more. Go ahead.
So yeah, I definitely get that people can change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much patience I would have with
Fair.
that change process.
Fair.
Mind you, like, I'm being clear, I'm also recently separated, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a little bit more of a cynical state of mind these days.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
taking what you were saying into account,
Mm-hmm.
how many people do you actually still see and interact with other than your ex-wife that you saw, while you were quote unquote
Cheater.
a cheater, right?
Mm-hmm.
And same thing goes for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
before, in my past life,
Mm-hmm.
8.5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I see very, very, very few people from that period of time from before 8.5 years ago. Now, does that mean that they wrote me off or that I wrote them off? No, we're just in different phases of life, right? So for myself personally, like if somebody were to come out to me and say, look, I seduce 9-year-old girls online or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that would be like, holy fuck, dude, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a good psychologist. Like, how can I help you get to the point of wanting to move forward in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point in time being like, okay, I'm out, I've done all that I can.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing where that person was, I don't think I could really
Re-engage.
re-engage after the process.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
That was like really deep and really dark, and yeah.
But it's practical though.
I have got a very important question.
Okay.
So Binyam, you had said that you would not help anybody bury a body no matter what. I want to hear about Frank and Roger's response to that same kind of question. What if somebody came up to you and said, dude,
that's a friend, right? That's somebody.
That, as a friend, I need to bury a body. Will you help me? What would you guys say?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
No conditions on that.
I got to go to the authorities, and there's people that are trained to be handling these things. And I don't know. If you killed someone, like there's
I don't think
things
I would.
that test the boundaries of loyalty, right? It's just I understand, like you gave that extreme example of sort of a kind of person that would be presumably irredeemable. I don't know anything about pedophiles or what they go through. It disgusts me personally. But am I going to be a party to murder? I don't think so. This is a point where I step away and I let the professionals step in. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on that front.
Fair enough.
I'm stepping away also. I mean, I'm a very loyal person, but I'm not stupid, and I know we're talking about dead body as an extremity. So that means that there are degrees of those kinds of situations that will occur, and depending on the degree, I'll make a calculated decision in terms of how far I'll go and how much does this relationship or friendship mean for me. If I'm going to be in jeopardy where I'm going to lose my ability to earn or go to jail, whatever, it's just not worth it, and it's unfortunately then something that I'll have to let go. Yeah, so I won't. Yeah, and again, degrees of that. I mean, if it was a lesser thing or a lesser gravity, perhaps maybe I'll say, okay, you're going to bomb that person with a balloon with water. Okay, fine. I don't like that. I'm not for that. But I will walk with you to the corner. I'll be there. And it just depends. There's the degrees of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess we can appreciate the sentiment behind that statement. I need you to help me bury your body. Like there's a feeling behind it, right? But it's like it's one of those things that immigrants have to learn to distinguish between the literal versus the figurative. Come on over anytime. So
Yes. 3 in the morning.
To like wind down this conversation, I think I just want to maybe focus our last few moments on talking about, I guess I would call it the gutsiness necessary in friendship. The gutsiness, like we've been talking about how courage is part of one of those elements that kind of keeps on coming back over and over again in this consideration, because it's a risky thing to open up and to let someone else in, and to do vice versa, and to build trust in a way that's like, this can be uncomfortable sometimes when we have to have a talk. Candor, for example, right? This is a little bit tough when we have to, like express what it looks like to express the things that we've never talked to anyone else about. Ooh, that's vulnerability. That takes courage. To even like accommodate for like different trajectories that someone is walking down in the friendship, saying, hey, I'm moving in a different direction now. That takes courage to communicate instead of just ghosting the person, right? Like there's an element of gutsiness that I'm not sure most of our listeners perhaps have accommodated for when we sign up for friendship. We like the idea that friendship is going to be easy and comfortable and on our schedule, as opposed to messy. And sometimes it encroaches on our own comfort in a way that stretches us, right? So let's maybe just reflect on that component of courage or gutsiness that one has to maybe account for as they consider what their circle of friendships looks like, how it's going to grow going forward, what they may have to express, or work on personally to go down a really helpful pathway in deepening friendships.
I kind of think that's sort of just like, getting back to the candor thing. It's sort of, candor can be all kinds of things, but having that really difficult discussion where you need to get things off your chest and you need to express those to your friend and be like, I don't like what you did here, or I'm feeling this way, and I want you to take my feelings seriously, because I want you to take our friendship seriously. And those are difficult conversations to have, rather than just being, especially amongst guys where it's all like, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine, maybe you're not fine, maybe something is bothering you, but it's hard to have those conversations. And I think certainly between guys it comes up less often, but maybe it doesn't, I don't know. Certainly in my experience, it's less common. But if you can get to that dynamic with certain people, then I think it can strengthen your bond absolutely to kind of, rumble through those tough patches and
Sure.
come out the other end stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's what you meant.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's good. I
Yeah,
like it. Yeah. No, I like it.
we lost Jonathan.
He's there. He's probably just listening.
What's your take on it, Binyam?
I think it is one of those elements where you see, it's the very thing that we see in movies, for example, right? When you see movies and they're like doing the thing and you're just like vicariously living through the actors as they're like taking those steps and having those talks and standing up in their power and all that kind of stuff. We see it presented. We love it when we observe it, but it's expensive to acquire. And I think it really requires that space to walk into it and grow into it, a space where there is permission to fumble our way through it, right? And in a lot of contexts, it seems from my observation, there aren't contexts that facilitate such a growth in courage expressed in friendships. And there's a lot more, how can I say, there's a lot more openness, or no, not openness, but the path of least resistance, to use Jonathan's earlier phrase from last podcast. The path of least resistance means let's just kind of not address whatever needs to be addressed. Let's not take those opportunities to rise up and grow in this capacity. And there's no models that are being presented for people to try and practice with, right? And so that's why I'm thankful even for podcasts like this, where the partnership of you guys to say, what could this look like as we model it and talk about it, as even we intentionally work at growing in our friendships too. A huge part, they say in the 12-step program, a really great place to start is acknowledging, saying, I see it. I realize I may not be there, but I'd like to work my way there. And what could that look like? And I think part of that is seeing it modeled, and then followed on that, the next step is finding those safe people that you can say, here's what I'd like to start practicing. Could we fumble our way through this? Could we vulnerably see what this could look like? And I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking there.
When you say seeing it modeled, and you mentioned the movies, like I would say it's not modeled in the movies at all.
Okay. Yeah.
Like in the movies, sort of like friends are like loyal to the end.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
March bravely into the sunset together.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Right.
There's never any kind of weakness or vulnerability between guys other than when they get mad at each other and get into a fight.
That's the part, though, I would say, Frank. For example, when we have new friends coming into our group of friends, one of the things they remark with great admiration is the comfort that we have as a group of friends, right? The solid framework in which we're able to engage. They can sense, holy crap, like this is a really, there's a lot of things going really well communication wise. So there's a very strong presentation that didn't just happen by accident, but because we had to work through some stuff, we had to have some conversations. So they're coming in and seeing more of the dynamic where we're down the road a ways, and they're like, that's amazing, right?
That's
but
a good
it
model.
didn't start there.
But not many people have access to that.
True.
Except for the people that hang out with us.
Yeah, and I'd say that's what they see in the movies as well. Like I'm comparing what we have. We had to work our way to get to that point. That's the point where we seem pretty strong in our ability to connect and interrelate with one another. That's the part that I think the movies present, and I think we experience in a real way, not in an acting way, right? So when they come in, they say, there's something amazing about the genuine nature of what is being presented here that they also maybe see in the movies, but they probably didn't see the hard work of working our way through it. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Roger, any last thoughts? Jonathan? This is good. In the midst of fumbles, go ahead. Go ahead.
You guys pretty much stole the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say something along the lines of start small. You know,
Yeah.
I've been on a really big kick of, you know, starting with the tiny little steps. You know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Mhm.
I think that's a Chinese proverb or something like that.
Sounds like it.
Anyway, yeah, I've just been a lot about that, of just like starting little and just like doing little things that can get you to that next level of being like raw, courageous kind of thing. And, you know, just like, yeah, just do whatever the heck you can do today that might feel courageous and might get you to the not even like next step, but like a 1/10 of the way to the next step. And if you just keep doing that, you're gonna be, I mean, it's the tortoise and the hare kind of thing, right?
Jonathan, that's a great way to sum it up. I love your simplicity doing that.
You still didn't let Roger finish.
Roger's on the beach.
Friends, it has been great to have this chat again. For those of you who are listening to the Friendology, we thank you for listening in. We want to offer hope, and that's the reason why we get together on a bi-weekly basis to model what could be, to let you know it is possible. And I love what Jonathan was saying. Start small. Start small, even as it takes courage to step up and go to that next level in friendship. It's worthwhile. It'll help you grow, but start small. See you in the next episode of Friendology. 2 minutes to spare under an hour, guys. Not bad.
We can't hear
Are we
you.
still, are we live or is it recording? I wanted to tell you something techie.
1 sec.
Yeah.
We're still recording.
No, we're not. Oh,
Oh.
I guess we are on the
Yeah, my thing says it's recording.